Mercedes sent the updated S-Class to Germany's Autobahn with a group of automotive journalists last week, and something unusual happened. Almost every review that came back said the same thing. They tried to find a major flaw, and they could not do it. That matters more than any spec sheet will, because the 2026 Mercedes S-Class is not a new car. It is a mid-cycle update, the kind that normally brings a revised bumper, a new screen layout, and a press release full of careful language about continuous improvement. Mercedes did something different. They changed more than half the car. 2,700 components are new or revised, and the result is what several publications are now calling the most comprehensive facelift in S-Class history. The exterior tells part of the story. The grille is larger, roughly 20% wider than before, and for the first time on this sedan, it is illuminated. Three-pointed stars sit within the vertical slats and light up at night, which is a detail that will divide opinion. The headlamps are new as well, with star-shaped elements integrated directly into the lighting signature. Mercedes has added the same design language to the taillights, connecting them with a thin strip of chrome across the trunk lid. The overall silhouette has not changed. At 208.8 inches long and 75.6 inches wide, this is still unmistakably an S-Class, but the front end now carries more visual weight than it used to. The standing hood ornament lights up too. It is the kind of feature that will either feel like a quiet statement of confidence or a step too far, depending on where you stand on the subject. What is not debatable is the quality of the lighting itself. The digital light system uses twin-star headlamp modules that project a wider, more precise beam. And Mercedes has added road surface detection to the adaptive system, so it can identify potholes and long speed bumps before you reach them. Inside is where the conversation gets more complicated. Mercedes has made the MBUX Superscreen standard across the range. That means 3 displays under a single glass surface, a 14.4-inch central screen, a 12.3-inch driver display, and a 12.3-inch passenger screen with eye-tracking privacy technology that prevents the driver from seeing video content in peripheral vision. The system runs on the new MB.OS operating system, which Mercedes developed in-house, and it brings features like Google Maps navigation, a generative AI assistant, and a zero-layer interface that works more like a smartphone than a traditional car menu. The technology is impressive. The problem is what it replaced. The outgoing S-Class had a vertically oriented central touchscreen, surrounded by real wood or metal trim, and the overall effect was one of restrained elegance. The new layout fills the dashboard with screens, and the bezels between them, finished in piano black, create visible gaps that several reviewers have described as a step backward. Edmunds called the new front end gaudy and said the Superscreen takes away from the interior, being a cocoon of elegance. Motor One noted that the circular air vents on the dashboard are plastic, which is not acceptable in a car at this price. The Drive titled its review "Around the Screen Issue" entirely. That is the honest negative for this car, and it is worth stating plainly. The MBUX Superscreen, despite being technically advanced, introduces thick piano black bezels and an over-reliance on digital surfaces that reduces the sense of handcrafted luxury the previous interior delivered. What makes it worse is that Mercedes already has a better solution in the new CLA, where the individual screens sit closer together to create a more seamless appearance. The flagship should not trail the entry-level car in display integration. The good news is that the rest of the interior experience is difficult to fault. The front seats are available with heating, ventilation, massage, and, for the first time in any production car, heated seatbelts. Mercedes calls it a reassuring embrace, and for cold weather drivers, it is exactly that. The 4-zone climate system includes energizing air control filtration, and the ambient lighting now uses 199 LEDs across 10 color worlds with 64 individually selectable colors. The materials, despite the screen criticism, remain among the best in the segment. Mercedes offers leather-free upholstery options that look genuinely premium, and I think it is worth noting how far non-leather interiors have come in the luxury space. What used to feel like a compromise now feels like a deliberate choice. Through the manufacturer made-to-measure program, buyers can choose from more than 150 exterior paint colors and 400 interior color combinations, which gives this car a level of personalization that most rivals simply cannot match. The rear cabin is where the S-Class continues to separate itself from the BMW 7 Series and everything else in the segment. Optional individual rear seats come with rapid heating, ventilation, and massage. Two 13.1-inch entertainment screens are available, each with its own detachable remote control stored in a docking station within the fold-down armrest. The remote controls do more than manage media. Rear passengers can adjust climate, seat functions, ambient lighting, volume, and power sunshades for both rear and side windows without asking the driver for anything. It is a mobile office or a private lounge, depending on what you need it to be, and nothing in the segment matches the depth of rear seat customization available here. The standard Burmester 3-dimensional surround sound system fills the cabin with concert-quality audio, and it is the kind of detail that you notice within the first 30 seconds of sitting down. Sound insulation has been improved as well, and at highway speeds, the cabin is remarkably quiet, even by S-Class standards. The boot offers 18.7 cubic feet in the gasoline models, which is a notable improvement over the outgoing car's 12.8. That is enough for two full-size suitcases and a carry-on, and the opening is wide enough to make loading straightforward. The plug-in hybrid version sacrifices some of that space for the battery, but the standard models are genuinely practical for a car in this class. Under the hood, Mercedes has made the most significant powertrain change in the S-Class lineup in years. The S580 gets an entirely new 4.0-liter twin-turbocharged V8, designated the M177 Evo, and it is the first Mercedes production engine to use a flat-plane crankshaft. That is the kind of architecture you normally find in a Ferrari, and it fundamentally changes the character of the engine. 530 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque delivered through a 9-speed automatic and standard 4-wheel drive. Mercedes claims 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds and an electronically limited top speed of 155 miles per hour. Journalists who tested it on the Autobahn confirmed it holds that speed with complete composure. The S500 keeps the 3.0-liter turbocharged inline-6 with EQ Boost mild hybrid technology. It produces 442 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque, with an overboost function that temporarily pushes torque to 472 pound-feet. The plug-in hybrid S580e combines the inline-6 with an electric motor for a combined 576 horsepower, making it the most powerful model in the standard lineup. All three powertrains send power through a 9-speed automatic to all 4 wheels. What the driving reviews revealed is that the 3 engines feel closer to each other than the numbers suggest. The V8 does not dominate the inline-6 the way you might expect. All 3 pull hard, all 3 are remarkably smooth, and all 3 reach their electronically limited top speeds without drama. Jalopnik noted that choosing the base S500 does not mean forfeiting power, performance, luxury, or refinement. The Drive described the experience as one where you get in wanting to find something to complain about and end up disappointed because you cannot find anything major. That kind of consensus is rare among automotive journalists, and it says something about the underlying engineering, that even the screen skeptics walked away impressed by the driving experience. I think the powertrain story here is less about the V8 headline and more about how Mercedes has elevated the entire range. You do not need the V8 to get the S-Class experience. The inline-6 is refined enough, powerful enough, and smooth enough that the upgrade is a matter of preference rather than necessity. The suspension is where the real engineering story lives. AIRMATIC air suspension with intelligent damping comes standard on every model, and it now connects to the cloud. The system records road surface data, including the location of potholes and speed bumps, and stores that information for future passes. It also shares the data with other Mercedes vehicles equipped with the same technology, which means the car learns from every S-Class on the road. The next time you drive over that rough stretch of highway on your commute, the suspension will soften itself before you reach it. It is the kind of invisible technology that makes a real difference in daily driving, without ever asking you to interact with the screen. Optional e-active body control takes the system further, with 48-volt active suspension that can adjust each wheel individually. Rear axle steering is standard at 4.5 degrees, with an optional 10-degree system that makes a car this size feel notably smaller in parking garages and tight urban streets. The S-Class starts at approximately $120,000 for the S500, with the S580 V8 at around $130,700. For context, the BMW 740i begins at $99,300. which means there is a gap of roughly $20,000 at the base level. The BMW 760i with the V8 starts at $124,700, which closes that gap considerably when you compare V8 to V8. And the S-Class includes standard air suspension, standard rear axle steering, and a standard MBUX Superscreen that the BMW charges extra for in most configurations. When you account for what comes in the box, the real-world price difference narrows even further. The 2026 Mercedes S-Class is not perfect. The screen layout is a misstep that Mercedes will almost certainly address in future updates, and the fact that the cheapest car in the lineup has better display integration than the most expensive one is hard to explain. But the rest of the car, the way it drives, the way it rides, the way it isolates you from everything outside, remains the standard that every other luxury sedan is measured against. It is worth remembering that the S-Class has been doing this for over 50 years. Every generation faces a moment where the critics wonder whether Mercedes has lost the plot, and every generation eventually proves that the fundamentals were never in question. The screens will age, the piano black will scratch, and the star motifs will either grow on you or they will not. But the engineering underneath, the suspension that reads the road before you feel it, the powertrain range that makes even the base model feel complete, and the rear cabin that no rival can match for customization, that is what defines this car. And if the journalists who just drove it on the Autobahn at 155 miles per hour came back saying they fell asleep in the back seat during the massage, that tells you everything about where the S-Class still sits in this segment. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I read every single one. And don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified about my next upload. See you in the next video.